Now, for this panel, we have a great selection of songwriters, musicians, and people representing songwriters and musicians from the UK and from Albania. The topic we're going to treat today is old music killing new music, which sounds a bit fancy, but it just, in our context, it means why aren't we publishing new songs? Why do we repeat all the same cover songs, which is the Balkan context? And in the UK context, it kind of means why are all the streams focused on old music, and how hard it is for new music to break through. Because if you open all the data, we do not really have data in the Balkans, but in the UK, it's kind of more than 80% of streams, and everything is dedicated to old music. And all the big publishers, like Hypnosis, are buying all the old catalogs, as you may be aware of all the old artists. Paul Simon just sold his catalog for 500 million because the streams that Paul Simon and all the songwriters from that era get are like massively major than all the hits that you get today. So no matter how big you think Dua Lipa is or everybody is, still old music is killing new music, and we gotta sort that out now. Now, to open up the panel, I'll just introduce myself. I'm Altin, musician here from Albania and in the UK. I'm also directing this conference and curating the program, so it's a pleasure to have you here. I'm going to be co-moderating this panel with David, and after David does a short introduction, I'm just going to ask all the speakers to say a few sentences about themselves, what they do, and who do they represent, and then we kick it off right away. Okay? Dave, I leave it to you.
Okay, so I'm David Cummins. I'm a musician, producer, educator, creative, but mostly I'm someone who's got a passion for music. And this idea that old music is the popular music, well, I think it's a really interesting subject to discuss whether this is a good thing or a bad thing. Does it prevent new artists from breaking through with their own original music? Or is it a vehicle that allows them to introduce their music? And I think this is something that we can have a very interesting discussion on this morning. So, if I can pass the microphone along and you can introduce yourself.
Good morning, I'm Tarek Alphonse. I'm the membership manager at the IVAS Academy. It's a trade organization that represents songwriters and composers in the UK. My job is to help make sure that our members have things that are beneficial to them, either educational, things that are practical to help them develop their craft. And we also do a well-known award ceremony called the Ivan Veller Awards. And more recently, I've been studying music business management at the Uni of Westminster after receiving a scholarship to do so. So yeah, really looking forward to having this conversation. I think there's lots to kind of unpack here today.
Hello, my name is Dr. Maha. I am here representing BIM University, where I'm the course leader for music business and songwriting, performance, and songwriting. My background is in performance mainly, and as a record label manager, so I'm a multi-instrumentalist, guitar, bass, drums, vocals, working with people like, Marshall and Zildjian. But I'm also a self-releasing artist because I didn't really get the representation, started representing myself and other artists. So I've released a number of different releases for artists, but about 40 of those have hit a UK chart. My last album went to #1 in the UK rock chart. So this is kind of something that's very independent. I'm not sure what else I would mention. I've got a couple of songwriting awards as well, and a PhD in psychology. So hopefully I can add something here. I definitely find this conversation really interesting. Thanks.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Elton Deda. I'm a songwriter, pianist, arranger, and here to represent in myself and a minor part of old school rock and roll of Albania. And that's it.
Hello everybody, I'm Bojken Lako. I'm a musician. I have some years that I do music since 1993, and then I worked for a long time in media, in TVs, like TV directing and music promoter. And I'm very happy that I'm taking part in this conference with guests from England, France. Thank you very much.
Of course. Thank you, Boko. Now, the guys there are very humble, but they're both legends in the music scene here in Albania, both Altin and Balkan. Now, I want to kick it off actually with a question for the guys there in the end, for Balkan and Altin, just to get the Balkan perspective, the Albanian actually. Because I'm a musician here myself, and kind of in the last 20 years or so, I see that there's a major decline in the release of new songs, I wouldn't say creativity in general, because people are creative. However, Altin and Balkan have been around way more than I've been around, so I just want to get their perspective out. In the last 20 or 30 years, do you judge that creativity or the music scene, new releases and everything have declined? And why do we keep repeating the same repertoire that we had since the 90s, and why the situation is like this? If you just can give your overview as performers here, as major songwriters in Albania, I'd appreciate that.
I don't know if I understood well. I don't share the same opinion about the music changings these years. The reason why I play the old songs personally these years is personal problem, because I think that I don't have to give or in that old school rock and roll inspired by grunge music and industrial. My problem is that I don't have time, because I work, I do music for fun, and I work in TVs. I don't have time. I would like to make some experiments on synthetic music mixed with Balkan sounds, and to experiment on music, but I don't have time. It's my problem.
Oh no, for you personally, you have a lot of songs and you release songs. I mean, in general, what do you notice about the Albanian scene when it comes to releasing new music? Has it declined, or is it better now than it was 10 or 15 years ago?
It's not so simple. I think that now, technically, is better period to release music, because everybody can release their music without companies, labels. You can be unsigned artist, and you have all the tools to release music, your music. Even to do music is simple. For example, for finding places to make rehearsals, finding good instruments, good PAs, and everything technically is better than before to do and to share music. I think the problem for the moment is that is a lot of music traffic, different kind of levels in music, bad music coming in this speedy communication,
Yeah.
not filtering. The role of classical media on making filters of music, promoting good music, is a little bit problem for the moment. I think we grow up in 90s watching TV, MTV, Viva, music channels, VH1, dreaming about world with good rock music festivals and festivals. But as we see, the festivals are happening still now, in this moment we are talking. It's just a problem that I think is better for doing and sharing music, but the problem is with society in general, how the world is for the moment, not the problem with the music industry. This is my opinion.
Great, Bakan, thank you. How about you, Altin? Do you think the same or have any different?
Yeah, I have to extend Boygan concept about the thing that we're talking. I think that it's not about only industry, music, art in general. It's about passion. It's about dreams. And the problem is that we're not dreaming anymore. That's the thing. That's maybe the difference from the 70s, from the 80s, and from the 90s. That many big things happen at that period. Now it's like Boygan said, we have the tools, but we're not having the spirit anymore. We're not having the dreams anymore, and that's a big problem. That's a problem with the creativity. It's not a problem with the industry. The creativity, it's about dreams, it's about passion. It's not about money. They will translate into money later when you finish the song and you publish it, but not when you do the song. That's why people go back to the 90s covers or 80s covers or 70s covers because like they're not able to do it. They're not able to create a song that has values. But the thing is that these covers are holding inside messages, very strong messages. And that's the thing. Now we don't read a book. We don't read a hardcover book. We just watch in our phones. So we're not touching anymore. We just are in this cloud. But everybody is like, oh, I'm a musician. What's your profession? I'm a musician. No, it's not a profession anymore. It's more like a hobby now, because everyone is doing music. Every ignorant, they just buy a new laptop and they think they're doing music. That's why the message is degenerate.
So, do you think then, I mean, let me ask on my half, because we're both from the UK, and maybe we kind of come from a similar perspective. Do you think that one of the reasons that people fall back on covers and fall back on old music is there's so much quantity of music released every day, every week, every month, right, that it's very hard to find the quality amongst all that music.
Yes.
Right? And so we fall back to these old songs, not through nostalgia, just because we know they're good, and that we listen to those. What do you think of that perspective?
So I also want to agree with everything that you're saying, and I think it's a really important perspective.
It's not a problem if you disagree.
I'm going to slightly disagree. No, but I agree as well. Because generally speaking, I feel like the older songs are kind of a voice of it's like our folk song of the past. And you're talking about VH1 and MTV, and these channels marketed really strongly to the generations that are now promoting music. So it's kind of like the instrument as well, you know, the idea of playing a guitar. You know, if you're in a campsite and there's no electricity and you are relying on your laptop, you're not carrying this same folk message from, you know, the history of where we're at. So there is this element of nostalgia, but at the same time, in the UK at least, there has become more individualization, but not necessarily in a good way. So, for example, social medias with the algorithms are so individualized that everybody is being taken into like a new direction. Whereas in the past, we had these big cultural moments, like, for example, MTV. You know, now we don't have that, but we have lots of niche, select groups. So when it comes to a song that we all know, we have to go further back. If we want to share a moment all together, it's going to be something that we all heard. And therefore, because everyone's listening to different things, it's actually harder and harder to do that. Another thing that I would say is that the TV industry has commissioned a lot of similar sounding artists because, you know, essentially if we want to have Satisfaction by the Rolling Stones on a film, maybe we can't afford to pay the Rolling Stones. Yeah, but maybe we're prepared to pay the publisher the 50%, but instead of paying the Rolling Stones, whose label are not going to agree, we're going to say to a local band or a band that we like, can you cover this song? And it's going to bring the cost down. Or, you know, maybe somebody is cutting a song and they want it to sound like The Clash, but you know, they can't get The Clash, so they ask a local punk band, and say, can you write a song that's similar to this? And this kind of, the need for bringing the cost down of everything is making more, more music that's the same. But, you know, I mean, if we extend that to radio as well, you know, at least in the UK, a lot of big artists broke through with covers alone. Like, I don't know if you would know Muse out here. Yeah, I actually sold him his guitar rig back in the day, so I'll take a little bit of credit for that. But, you know, essentially they broke through with the cover because it would get national play on radio, whereas I think that DJs feel more risk when they find a great new song and say, hey, let's give this the airtime, but it's too risky. So if they're doing a cover, I think it's easier. But yeah, I could talk about this for too long, so I'm going to just end it there, but yeah, thank you.
Okay, so Tariq, can I ask you what you think of this, whether you think that this is a negative thing or a positive thing? Because for me, there are positive and negative aspects to this. If you go out and play covers in a venue, and then you slip in one or two of your own original songs, it gives you an opportunity to start introducing your audience to your music. But the negative is that you're bringing people in because they want to hear the covers. So how do you see this is this a good thing, or is this a negative thing for the industry? And in Albania particularly here, where you go to venues here and you hear a lot of covers in a lot of the small venues.
Yeah, I mean, very well said. I think one thing that we have to consider is one of the biggest changes in the industry in the last 10, 20 years is the digitization of it. We've moved from a physical market to a digital market. Maybe showing my age here, but I was speaking to my mum about this and about how she used to go about buying music with her money. The same $9.99 that we used to spend on I spend on Spotify, you know, she would only be able to spend that on one album or one song, which means that she would usually go for something new. Whereas with my generation, we're paying that same money and we have access to everything. So it's very hard to come up against old music and then have to kind of break into that market when you've got access to everything. I think similarly as well, major labels, major publishers have seen the benefit of investing into catalog over new artists. I think historically, major publishers, labels used to spend something like 40 to 50% of their budget on developing new artists. Now that's more like 10 to 15 because of the operational costs. They want to keep it down as much as you say. It's a lot cheaper to just keep investing in your old work as opposed to creating new work, buying studio time, making sure you got the artists on well-paid contracts, all that kind of stuff. To answer your question, I think it can be a good thing. One thing I wanna reference or point to is the hip hop show that was here last night. One of the acts, and I might butcher his name, so Altin, you might have to help me. I think it was La Fananza?
La Fazane.
La Fazane.
He's not really hip hop. He's
yeah.
cool.
He did a really cool cover of Eminem's The Real Slim Shady last night, but he sang it in his native tongue whilst playing a native instrument. I think it's actually one of the guitars in those cases over there.
Yeah, Chief Elite, it's called.
Yes, thank you. And I think that was amazing to see because you have a lot of young people there who loved Eminem growing up, but never heard Eminem singing in Albanian, and they got to experience that last night. It helps him get a bigger audience, bring a more youthful audience, as well as getting them people to then engage with his new work. I think obviously it can be a challenge if you're only doing covers. People will obviously maybe more connect with those songs than with your work. But the benefit of a cover, and I think there's a misconception, is that you'd have to get permission to create a cover from the artist, but actually you don't. You can create a cover, and if you were to want to release it, the only thing that you do need, if you do it on digital platforms, is a mechanical license, which you can get from the MCPS or MLC in the US. I'm not too sure what the one is here in Albania. You wouldn't need prior permission like you would for sampling, so it's a lot easier. It's a lot more sustainable.
Awesome, thank you, Terry. Now, because you got in a good point there on the songwriters bit, because the whole point of this, in a case, at least in our context here, 1, 2. No, I'm just out of battery. I mean, it's technically a gig, so problems happen. Yeah. How it works now. Okay. Now, getting to the songwriter bit. Because the whole point of the panel, or the whole point, in a way, of the conference is to kind of help musicians, and for this case, help songwriters. Now, I just want to ask Tarek again, because you work at the Ivers Academy, which is whole point is about supporting songwriters in one of its missions. Now, I want to bring it down here to the very, very basic level. Can you please tell people what they practically do to help songwriters and to help musicians? Like, from the basic level to at the top. Yeah. And after that, I want to kind of make a parallel between what you do to help songwriters in the UK and what we can do here to help songwriters in Albania. Because I have my own opinions and my own perspective of what the problem is now in the UK, having lived and being a musician there, and what the problems and the solutions could be here in Albania, also having lived here for most of my life. So if you could just explain, what do you do to help songwriters? What are the problems that they mostly have, and what's your role in that? I don't know if that works, so you better get this.
I can try it out? Okay, great, thank you. Yeah, I'll try to give you a brief history of the Ivers Academy. It's a very old organization, a lot older than I am. It was founded just after World War II, when the BBC was commissioning a lot of new works, but actually was outsourcing a lot of the commissions, the compositions, to American composers. And UK composers were like, well, this is the British Broadcasting Service. Why are they using American composers to create works for their television programs? They banded together and formed the Ivers Academy as a way of representing that community, to make sure that there's a voice for those people. And that's kind of what we do now, is to make sure that we are a voice for that community. It's a lot bigger than it used to be. One of the ways that we do that is through the Ivor Novello Award. It's a very well recognized, very reputable award within the music industry, because it recognizes... Thank you so much. I think the mic is gone. It recognizes songwriters where most other awards would recognize the performing artists. It's also an award that's judged by songwriters, so it feels very authentic, very close to home. Another benefit that we provide our members is like I mentioned earlier, is loads of resources to help educate people around the country about what it is to be a songwriter or a composer. People think, when I say songwriter or composer, that I think the colloquial term is a ghostwriter, someone that writes songs for other people, which in some cases it is, but a songwriter can just be the person that is writing the underlying composition, or the lyrics are part of that song. And it's just making sure that more people understand what that is, so that they can understand what rights they're able to collect. We want to make sure that we do that in a very authentic way. So the Ivers Academy is a creator-led organization. Our board is made up of songwriters and composers who are currently practicing within the field. And one of my jobs as well is to go into education, so schools around the country, and to talk about, again, what songwriting is, what publishing is, and why it can be a different pathway for people to get into the music industry, where you don't have to be necessarily the performing artist or the manager, for example. Yeah, hopefully that gives you a nice overview as to what we do.
You touched some cool points there, for which I believe can expand. So we talked about educating people on how to be a songwriter. In the sense, not how to write songs. We are also going to get to that, to the songwriting camps and everything, because I think that's also very important. But out of what Tarek mentioned, about people being aware about publishing, about the rights, about everything, back in the day when you started your career in the UK, what were the things, when you started to write your song, to release songs, what were the things that you learned over time that you wish you knew in the beginning when it comes to that part? After that, we're going to go to the guys to kind of ask them what would be the parallel for Latin Albania. So just to kind of resum the question, in the beginning as a songwriter and over your career, what were the things that you wish you knew about the rights, about publishing, about your career, and that you teach your students today?
Okay, thanks. Your questions is so hard. I actually started songwriting when I was about 5 years old, so I didn't know anything. I would just, play around and, make songs about how music appeared and vanished. But, as I got a bit older, I kind of wrote songs, but I didn't really necessarily know how to register them properly. So even till very recently, in the UK we have like 3 organizations. One is PRS, that deals with the songwriting royalties. One is the PPL, that deals with the recording and the recorded music, but also we've got MCPS, which is like you get paid for like the duplication of that, which includes streams and some other areas. Now, on the face of it, it looks like when you sign up for PRS, you're also signed up for MCPS, but actually that's not the case. So even though I'm quite out there in the industry, I release music and I have done for a while, I actually wasn't collecting these myself. And when I realized that, it was actually because my album had done really well. A friend from the States had contacted me and said, hey, I've heard things are going really well. You're leaving money on the table because you're not signed up for these rights. And I was like, I am though. And he was like, actually, you're not. And he signed me up in terms of representing some publishing. But also to do that, I had to register myself as a publisher in the UK. And then I realized that so many of the artists that I knew in my network were also not registered. So kind of started to contact. And it's something that I'm still working on. But, representing a small label, we kind of need a bigger team to help more artists. But yeah, essentially just to know where to sign up, I think that's really important. In terms of what we would teach students, musicians, it's the same thing, just to have awareness of those rights. But I mean, we could go beyond that, like we could work on collaborations. This is something that even I wouldn't know how to just do off the top of my head without knowing someone, but there should really be a resource where songwriters can connect other than through like a conference and just kind of have like a social media that connects songwriters for collabs or something. I don't know, remixes, so on. But yeah.
Oh yeah. Specify the question for Altin and for Balkans. Okay. So we got to an interesting point, and we got the UK perspective, a bit on what should songwriters know, and over time to develop that knowledge, build the right collaboration with people, so you can sign up where you need to sign up, you don't leave money on the table, then you know what to collect. We're all assuming this under a sphere, that everything is collected and everything is distributed. I mean, not always everything, obviously, but that it works, you just have to know how it works. Now we're going to get to another point that is a perspective here. Now, it's not like a mystery or something that, of course, we have our issues here with rights, we have our issues here with everything. And I don't think it's just issues because people don't want them to be collected or everything like that. It's not that people don't wanna, it's just that we are almost new to it, is the idea. And the awareness level here, I believe, lies in different spectrums of this. So it's not just the artists, it's also the professionals itself, the government itself, a lot of people who are not aware or do not insist on it. My question is very basic, directed to Altin and Balkans. Now, do you think that the fact that people are not aware about their publishing, they're not aware about copyright and anything, is a factor in a sense that old music is killing new music? So do you believe that bands here or songwriters here get demotivated just because they say, oh, I will release new music, but I will not get any royalties for it, I will not get paid for it? And if you think there is an issue, like, what would you tell those songwriters if this actually doesn't work? Like, what would be the thing that you would tell me to say, okay, this probably might not work at the moment, but here is what you can actually do. Here is when you can sign up. Here is what you can actually do in Albania. I'm going to start it with Altin.
Thank you. If you told me I would bring some batteries from my house to the for the second mic. Anyway, it's gone now.
It works sometimes, but
it's
it's gonna shut off eventually.
It's like Albanians, we work sometimes and
sometimes.
sometimes we're off. All right, that's a good and unanswered question that that you did, because it starts with the copyright. I am the president of the Council of Albautor, which is the copyright of the Albanians authors. And we have such a hard time because the law is, but there's no will, there's no political will, and the society, including, because we live in a society, in a general society, including musicians, including artists, it's not a problem that the new artists are holding back because they're afraid of royalties, because we're not getting our royalties as well. So that's why I told you this is an unanswered question. It should start from the education, from the copyright, and then we go for publishing, because the market is open. Everybody can write music, but who's going to protect you? So it starts from the law. Every society is law obedience, and that law here is not working. That's why the market is a mess. The Albanian market is not a real market, because there is no regulated by copyright laws. And that's the main problem. If we solve this problem, yes, now we can talk about what is the perspective of new artists, or how they will succeed in this field. But now the old and the young artists, they are the same. So everybody is running for his life, his own life, all right? Up to the hills.
I don't know what to say for this part of law, regulation, rights, not rights. I don't see music connected so much with rights or not rights. And yes, I understand. I don't think that an artist is inspired to go on with music, to compose, to play live, if he is paid or not. And I changed this opinion when I went for the first time in United States of America, 2001, that there were a lot of very high-level professional bands playing in a Black Cat rock cafe just for $200, $300. When I understood that mostly of persons who are involving in the music, they play music for fun, for changing their way of life, for being better persons, and I don't see the music so connected very much with money and with royalties and stuff like that. The only thing I have to say is that we have to contribute, everybody, to talk with the young generation, just to inspire them to be involved in music, just to be a better persons. More for, I'm actually doing some rock lessons with an academy that is here in Hollywood Academy. I'm very surprised, and it's a long period, 10 years, that I'm promoting young artists. I go to high schools, I see the talent and the young guys that want to live with music, to make music, to play instruments. And this is the best part. Even here in this music expo, maybe next year the organizers has to find young bands, young musicians, not to fight in a battle of a band, but just to expose them on stage, to create conditions and possibility for them to feel, to play on stage. And we have to give a hand to emergent artists, not just people like us that we have 30, 40 years that we do music. And that is my message.
Honestly, I completely agree with you 100%, because we do it because we want to do it, first of all. Those things come afterwards, that's 100%. Now, the whole copyright and everything is just an issue that we throw now out there, because it's worth throwing out there. But now we're going to skip that. We're going to get to the basic level, because basically we talked about gigs. And the same thing is in London. You have great bands playing in pubs that actually make it to the level, but you still have great bands everywhere playing, because they just want to play it. And they do it because they love it. Now, we're going to take it to the basic level, which is the venues. Because artists here come, play to the venues, in London, New York, whatever, it's the same thing. You go to the venue, you have the chance to play your songs, you play the covers, you play the originals, and you overall build a community. Which, whatever it is, industry brackets, London, Albania, it still be the same thing. You play, the people will follow you. Now, I'm going to leave it up to Dave to take the conversation to the venues and to the whole basic level of where it starts. And then we're going to go back to actually music education to wrap up a bit the panel. So I'll leave it to you, Dave.
Okay, so obviously we want artists to be creating new music. If they don't create new music, right, then where's this nostalgia factor going to be in 50 years? Is it going to be 100 years old? Right? Are we going to be listening to music from 1970 in 50 years' time, or are we going to be listening to music from today? And yeah, well, that's true, but right, in terms of popular music, not much popular music becomes classic. Right? There are classics that are always going to be there. Right? So my kind of approach to this is: do the venues need to do more to encourage new artists? Right? Do venues need to stop being so risk averse and actually take a chance instead of taking the easy way? Well, we'll book a cover band because we know we're going to get an audience and we don't have to spend a great deal on promotion. Or shall we take a risk? We'll maybe get a cover band, but we're going to get an original band in too. Or we're just going to have a showcase night for original bands and we're going to promote the hell out of it. Exactly. Right, but if they promote it well enough, right, and they're promoting local talent and they're encouraging local talent, right, people can come, but it's harder for them to get people there. Right, now, this is the way that I think that venues should work to encourage new artists. But I wonder what the rest of the panel think about how can venues do more, what should they do, right, and how should they go about it. And I'm going to start with Altin because he's got experience of the UK and Albania, having been in both, and then we'll just pass it along the panel, I think.
Well, I kind of think like there's no pointing fingers like the venue owners or everything because everybody takes the risk. However, traditions takes a long time to build, and like every business, like everything, there's another culture happening. Now, in the UK, programs of the venues are great. Everybody having a pub knows how to do a quiz night, a comedy night, an open mic, and and everything. And whether people show up or whether people don't show up, in every possible pub in London, they still keep doing the program every night and every day. And they do it at the lowest minimal cost, and they take the risk to do it in a very, very smart way, is the sense. But they still keep doing the program almost every day of the week. Some day people come, some day people don't come. And they figure it out along the way. What I kind of feel here is that, to be fair, venues take the bands and play, and I get why they get the cover bands, I get why they get some of the original bands there. But I feel that venues here do not do a good program overall for the venue, and over time, they turn the venue into a place when people just want to show up to listen to the band in the weekend, and they don't take the risk the whole 3 or 4 or 5 days during the year. Why? Even basic stuff. Events get published on Monday and they do on Sunday. There's no reoccurring event that could be very low cost and very well handled that happens on a Wednesday. There's nothing gets promoted now and it's going to be there in May, which is a month after, that no matter how bad the program is in a sense, if you promote it a month ago, something will happen. There's a lack of open mics, and whenever we've tested open mics, I know there's problems with open mics and everything, but there is a lack of even genuine intention to put on open mics for a lot of reasons. And I noticed this kind of things happening. Now, my question will first start with Maha, because I know you have a lot of experience in the UK, just to kind of say that, starting even from the lowest pub in London or everything that happens there, like, how have those programs, those open mic programs, those kind of places when the community build help shape your career? And then I want to take it to the people here, because I know that you're very much involved in venues and everything. Just tell me, like, honestly, in all honesty, like, what are the issues that you're having with venues to put on a program, the problems that you have, and in your genuinity, like, if you want to do more, like, for artists, what kind of help do you need, the challenges that you have to do more for artists, venues overall? But I'm just going to start it with Mao to give kind of an overview that about how it is in the UK, that even at the lowest level, the things are happening, whether there's people or there's no people, and how it kind of shaped your career, those small things.
Yeah, thanks. I definitely cut my teeth on getting out to open mic nights and playing with other musicians. I mean, this I didn't find any problem with in London. Like, you can go out any night of the week and there's an open mic night and you can just join in, and that's kind of like, yeah, I mean, I would hope that's still the same now, but definitely when I was starting out, you could just go out, find an open mic, maybe this part of town, that part of town, one on every night of the week,
Mic
you
is
know.
like a jam session, right?
Yeah. So
Well, I didn't
Yeah,
live in
like-
London, I lived in New York, so it's not like open mic. When they say like open mic is like a comedy or something like that.
Oh, yeah,
Not
yeah.
Like a jam session. Is
Oh yeah, jam session. Yeah, I get it. So essentially, you can still perform your original songs at an open mic, but you just have to do it because you're kind of like, or at least find a way to collaborate with people around you and maybe work on something. So it's not impossible for you to play your own songs at open mics, and I did that a lot. When it comes to the venues, to be honest, I don't feel like UK venues could be doing any more. They're doing so much, and it just feels like, you know, we program a lot of independent artists all through the UK all the time. Now, you know, there are certain kind of pubs like which you would associate more with drinking and, you know, like lads drinking, and they will always book cover artists. I think that that's kind of a different thing, but if you want to find real bands that are really touring, yeah, you can definitely do that all across the UK. I feel if we wanted to improve on that, what we should be doing is cutting the business rates, cutting the rents. We've got a great organisation in the UK called Music Venue Trust, and I actually played their first ever gig in one of the venues in St Albans, which is like near London, a city near London. And what they do is they try to get money together to buy venues that are struggling so that people can't come along and turn them into flats, which is kind of the main issue that we seem to have. But yeah, I just feel like venues are already doing so much. And, you know, if we can support them more, you know, maybe what we should be doing is looking at the black box. Like the black box is a place where all of every artist's money that isn't represented goes. And that gets redistributed to the major companies. And actually, that should be redistributed, I think, on a proportional basis to the artists that put it in. So if like 30% comes from independent artists, I think 30% should go back to those artists. So, I mean, maybe that's what we could be doing. But I know that's not really the angle. But yeah, I feel like we're already doing a lot.
Yeah, I'm just going to get Terry's view before, and then we're going to go to Altin and Balkans to do like a wrap-up to get to the venue part. Just kind of your perspective on the new songwriters on the basic level. Like, what are the things that helped them start out? Because I think it like this. The level of 25% of London is 100% level here when it comes to activity of venues and to the level of songwriting. Not in quality, but at the level that your song can reach, just because of the number of population and of the economy. So those very first songwriters or whatever, what are the things that shape them? In my experience, it's open mics are great, jams are great, songwriting camps are great, music schools are great. Why? Not because songs are heard, but because it's kind of what you said, you sharpen your teeth. Because you're going to write 100 shitty songs for one song to actually be good, because that's what everybody did. You just do a lot, so one is good. If it happens that one is good before, it's good, but you have to try them out. So what do you think are the very first basic things that support songwriters, especially connected to venue? Then my question for you is like, what are the problems here of venues and of people who support young artists, and what should be done more?
Another great question. I think you mentioned a lot of the good things there already. Like we have a school called the Brit School, which is dedicated primarily to educating people about music. We have loads of not-for-profit organizations that grant monies, income to help support and develop new artists, like PRS Foundation, help musicians. We have an Arts Council is a big one, yeah. Youth Music. So there's lots of. It's still not enough. It doesn't compare anywhere to how much major labels used to invest, but it's a substantial amount, more so than I imagine most places. Another thing that we have in the UK that I wanted to highlight was a festival called The Great Escape. It happens in a small. It happens in a small town, a seaside town called Brighton. Takes over the entire town for a long weekend from like Thursday to Sunday, and they only book emerging to kind of mid-level artists. And it's honestly one of the biggest festivals next to Glastonbury in the UK. Every major label, every major publisher wants to be there because they know that's where they're going to find the new talent. And I think lastly, the thing that is probably done really well is that most venues, if not all venues, they do pay their licenses, their PRS licenses, their PPL licenses, to make sure that the works that are played there are covered, and they make sure that they register the set list. It then allows them, for a songwriter who gets their first song to be performed, to see that go through the system and understand how those wheels work, and to see kind of data coming in later on. Those are the things that I think, if I was Albanian, I would steal. I would, have the Great Escape in one of your beautiful seaside towns. I would encourage more venues to make sure that they are paying their licenses to have works played within their venues, and making sure that they're registered with the guys at Alberto, because once more data is being processed through those CMOs, I think the world will take it, the other CMOs will take it as more of a sign that Albania is taking this kind of part of the industry a lot more seriously.
All right, as you said, we have to wrap it up. The thing is, the thing is that I own a venue. It's a small club, so I rent it. I'm not the owner. The owner is right there, so I pay the rent to him, and he's paying to listen to me now. That's the irony of the of the thing. Congratulations, Blady, you got it. And the thing is that the problem with the new artists is, first, quality. But we're not discussing quality because they are young, right? So they allow to make mistakes or to... The thing is that the difference, and there's lots of differences from England and Albania, the population, the amount of the big crowds, big cities. Albania is not offering things like that, and we go more towards bands that are consolidating, and that they are playing, that we know how they are playing. And I tried, for example, in my venue, I tried to do Wednesday or Thursday with young artists, and slow, it failed. And as you know, most of the venues are self-administration, self-financial, and so you have to find a way to not fail, to not go bankrupt. The thing is that for this venue, we need a plan and maybe some auditions. So we have like 10 bands that we need to promote, and then we go. And there's not too much venues here for the bands that they play. Mostly they are with DJs, with our karaoke, something like that. So it's not the right place to do that stuff. It's not like in London or New York City or in Berlin or in Rome.
Okay. I think it's so simple because we have lived in different eras of quality of music produced in live gigs on venues. Even here in Albania, 2000, 2005, 2010 was different. Now it's a bad situation economically, and we are speaking just economically now, because the persons who own spaces and venues are doing business. And the first thing, I think that the government or the structures that has a budget, states to promote music, they had to do more organizing emergent festivals, alternative stages, persistent stages on town, on city. When, for example, every Saturday, everybody knows that the young generation goes to this square to listen to new bands, to open some state places for bands to make rehearsals. Here in Albania, the price to pay for 1 hour rehearsals in a studio is the same, exactly the same as London. We spoke. So it's very difficult. It's like a change that has It's a little bit complex, but so easy. So if we have alternative spaces with a small budget from the state for young bands to make rehearsals, some emergency festivals, in that moment the venue owners will be not the factor of promoting music. But now in this system, there are factors, there are stages. It's the third or fourth time that I'm saying this, even in other interviews, that it's a big role of the owners of venues to promote music, and everybody's thinking I'm crazy, but I'm not crazy. Or the Ministry of Culture, I don't know, or the structures of the state has to do some rules for paying the rights, or creating these owners not to pay taxes if they promote young bands, and or to pay more if they play just covers, or nobody pays here. Here we have a lot of problems we don't have to compare. We have with England, the other places, because this is society 30 years on this field of music industry after the strong period of communism, so we have a lot to do. But I think for everybody it's a moment to reflect, to contribute, to give a contribution for the good, for music, for arts, for good society, like musicians, organizers like you with this event, and also with from the owners of venues and everybody. Thank you very much.
Can I add one thing, with your permission, sir? Because you're the speaker. Yes, I have to agree very, very much with Boykan, and add that for the new artists, especially for the new artists, because this is an investment. It's not that someday we're all gonna die. What's the legacy? So what's the thing that we're gonna leave behind us? The young generation, right? So these guys need to be promoted, but they don't need to be promoted in chaos, in anarchy. They need to be promoted by certain rules, by certain things that you need a plan. In short terms, you need a plan, and as long as we don't have that plan, we need to try harder. So that's the whole point. That's the thing. I think that the Boko was referring about plans, about investments of the states, of maybe even some other guys, like a private thing, private groups, but they need to do this thing, because we're not leaving too much behind, and that's a shame, and that's a problem, because it will be like degrading until that it's going to be impossible to recover in the future. Thank you very much.
I wanted to just add as well, I think it's important to note that new music doesn't necessarily have to come just from, I think it's a problem we have in the UK, new music doesn't have to come just from young people as well. So if there are new initiatives, I think it has to, if there are new initiatives, then it should also be inclusive to people that are above the age of 30 as well, who are coming into the industry, just because they need the same support as someone who is coming out of education as well. That's what I want to add.
Yeah, I think there's been a lot of really good points made on the panel here on the stage. So I think we'd like to open it up to you in the audience. Has anybody got anything they'd like to say or they'd like to ask us? You know, if not, I'm quite happy to end it on Tarek's and Elton's points. The point about legacy, I think, is the most important. What we do now affects everything that happens in the future. And that's how we need to look at what we're doing, I think. So if I can leave you with that, if Altin's got anything to say.
No, I just want to thank you all and all in the audience.
Really